We are starting a brand new project and it's a big one, so let's go. I've had this bike sitting in my backyard for over a year now, and I have always wanted to make a cafe racer motorcycle. I know, it is not the most original idea, and yes, I am jumping on the cafe racer bandwagon. These were more popular maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe not so much as of now, but I don't care. There will be many before this and many more after, but this one is mine, and I have wanted to do this for a very long time. This is a 1982 Yamaha XV920 Virago, and it has 920 cc's, and usually they do the 750 version. This one has 23,000 miles and it is not in terrible shape. This is also kind of my first time giving it a really good once over because I kind of just found it, purchased it for a really good price, and then stored it away, so I don't really know a whole lot about these motorcycles or vintage motorcycles whatsoever. This one's definitely going to be more challenging to me just because I don't have a lot of experience with older kind of motors. I don't really know much about carburetors other than they do something with the fuel, so this is going to be very challenging to me, but I am excited about this project. This bike is currently not running and I don't believe it has ran in several years, so this is going to take some sorting out, even getting it to the point where it can be running, and that's kind of our first task. But as you can see, the clutch cable is not even connected to the bike and the cover is off of it. It's missing some bolts on the side of the crankcase, so somebody's been in there trying to mess with things, so I think the starter area is probably our first line of attack. This battery is absolutely gigantic for a motorcycle and is most definitely dead, so we have to replace that. I don't know the state of this carburetor. It looks a little worse for wear, but hopefully we can get it to a usable state. The first order of business is just making sure that this engine is going to show any signs of life, a sputter, a pop, any kind of smoke coming out of it. That's what we want to see, because if this motor doesn't work, then I might not go through with this project, because I'm not sure if I want to tackle all the inside and outs of completely rebuilding this engine. So if it doesn't work, then I probably will be selling it, because I bought this bike for very cheap and I know somebody else would take on this project and do it all from scratch. But I do have faith in this motor and I think it actually will run. But that's what this episode is all about, is just uncovering mysteries and seeing about the future of this bike. Some things, as you can see, are definitely questionable, but other things don't look too bad, so I'm not sure about what's going to work and what isn't, but that's what we're here to find out. I know the $1 million question is, am I going to electrify it? Am I going to do an EV swap to this bike? And the answer is no. Although I will say there will be an e-motorcycle build swap thing going on in the future on this channel, just not with this particular bike. I am into all things electrical and mechanical. I don't discriminate, and that includes ICE engines, and there's something about the V-twin platform, the way they sound, the vibrations, the torque, everything about it. I am super into it. I'm really hoping this doesn't require a complete engine overhaul, but hey, even if it does, I still might do it because I want to see this thing transform into something amazing. We need to throw on our detective caps and start investigating all of the different components to figure out what it's going to take to start making some popcorn in those cylinders. I decided to first tackle the carburetor because I know this has been sitting quite a while, and I'm sure the jets and orifices inside of here are probably gummed up with some very old gasoline. I don't know why this was so hard to remove or why it seemed like there was like a screw action going on, but it looks like, yeah, that's kind of why, because it was actually screwed on to the manifold here, or at least a portion of the manifold, and it looks like there had been some leak of either internal air leaks or maybe fuel leaking out of it. I'm not sure, but I got it off of here and it does look a little crusty, but hopefully we can clean it up a bit. I already showed you guys that there was zero oil in this bike before, but I also wanted to kind of just make sure that there wasn't any residual disgusting oil at the bottom because I am going to be putting more new oil in here, and as you can see there are a few little pokey things stuck to the magnet, but it doesn't look too terrible. To bring the bike back to life, we need fuel from the carb, we need oil in the engine, and we also need the battery to provide the starter motor some energy. I still can't get over how big this battery is. I feel like you could actually start a car with this battery, but I guess because these cylinders are so big that it takes a lot of juice to get them turning. The replacement battery I got is much smaller, but it should output even more amps, so that'll be a nice thing to get rid of. So let's dig into this carburetor. Some parts of it look quite disgusting, other parts look fairly clean, so I'm not sure why there's such a discrepancy, but I guess it doesn't look super horrible, so I'm okay with that. Since I don't know anything about carbs, I don't know if this looks bad or good or usable or not, but I am just going to clean it with my ultrasonic cleaner and we'll see what it looks like after it's done. I was actually pretty surprised with how clean the ultrasonic got things. I know it's not incredible. I didn't do any kind of manual scrubbing or anything like that. I didn't spend too much time cleaning this because I will be replacing this carburetor later, and I only needed to pass at least the minimal amount of fuel through it, and I was hoping the ultrasonic would give it at least that much life. I'm starting from ground zero here, so I have no idea if this is going to work at all, but if it doesn't, then I will definitely clean it much better. But for now, I just hope that it will do something with this engine and pass some fuel through it. I do know from the factory that this bike came with 2 carbs, but I'm not sure if this is one of the original ones or some aftermarket ones. I didn't see any casting numbers or any way to identify what carb this is, so if you know where I can find that, I would definitely like to check it out. As you can see, I threw in some bolts even though they're not the right size, just so all the oil doesn't leak out while I'm pouring it in, just for this test. I know it's not perfect, but it will have at least some oil in it, and here I am taking out the spark plug so it will turn over much more easy without all that compression. After that, just screw in the starter because it wasn't all the way screwed in, and put on the new battery and make sure none of the wires are melting and no smoke is coming out of it. This was my first time keying on the bike because it had a dead battery the whole time, and I could not believe that this dashboard was actually showing signs of life. I absolutely love the aesthetics of 80s futurism. To me, this looks more futuristic than the actual future we're living in. Look at that digital tachometer, that is so cool. I still can't believe that this thing works. The headlight seems to be working, I can turn it on and off with the switch. All of the electrics on this bike seem to be working, which just is blowing my mind. These cables are 40 years old, the connectors are starting to crumble, and I just can't believe that it is working. The only thing that doesn't work is the flasher relay for the turn signals. The tail lights work, the brake lights, even this component works. I seriously can't believe it. This is amazing. Okay, the only thing that's not working is the actual starter button. I took off the starter solenoid and that seems to be working correctly, so maybe it's just one of these connections here, and I found something weird going on with this extension. The connector is correct, but the red is going into the blue and the blue is going into the red, so the polarities are reversed, but on this end it actually seems like it is connected correctly, so I'm just going to swap those and hope that it's going to make the solenoid work, and it is not, so I'm just checking that. So here's the problem. The starter button is not actually doing anything. It's not doing the starter solenoid, so let me check that out. I checked the start button with my multimeter and it is working, so something along the line is not going down to the solenoid, but if I directly connect the battery to the starter, that is not working either. So I have actually 2 problems here. One is the start button is not actuating the solenoid, but the one I really care about is the starter is not working when you apply power to it. Now, before we dump and invest money into a new starter, let's see if we can get this one working, because again, at this point, I don't even know if I'm even going to proceed with this project if this engine doesn't run. So if I can get this starter even to click over a few times, that's all I really need at this point. It doesn't look too bad in here, although there is quite a bit of brush dust kind of caked everywhere, so this could definitely use a cleaning, but I have no idea if that's the thing that is making this motor not work. It doesn't cost anything to at least attempt to get this starter back working, so I'm just ultrasonicking everything and cleaning it all up and letting it dry completely overnight. Again, I came away super impressed with how the ultrasonic cleaner had cleaned up a lot of the internal gunk going on here, and I didn't have to scrub anything. It is just very handy. I have rebuilt starters before and also windshield wiper motors, so this isn't like something I'm not super familiar with, but I still don't exactly know what the problem could be. These brushes are pretty worn down, and most likely this is the problem that is making the starter not want to turn. Although if there is any brush material, it should show some signs of wanting to turn, so I'm not sure why it just seems like it's completely dead, but here I am just cleaning everything up and then putting it back together and crossing my fingers and hoping for the best. This was the next day after cleaning everything in the ultrasonic cleaner, and all I did was put it back together, and I don't have it on camera unfortunately, but it actually did work. When I jumped it with the battery, the motor turned, and it was actually turning for quite a while, but it only did that 2 times, and after that I couldn't get it to turn again. I disassembled it and reassembled it a bunch of times, messing with the brushes, changing them to either side. I did some sanding on the commutator. I tried everything to revive this, and I could only get it to maybe spin for like a quarter of a turn, but it was just completely dead after that. I thought maybe there was some sort of short going on, and as you can see when I press on the magnets, it's actually showing some sign of resistance that's different than a dead short. So to me, I think that maybe the insulation from this magnet ring around it is not fully there. I'm pretty sure this is the brushes though. That's usually the thing that makes the motor not want to work, but if you guys have any suggestions as to why this is not working or why cleaning it would allow it to work for maybe 1 or 2 times and then go completely dead again. I will say that I gave it my all though. I tried everything in my power to try and get this starter to work, but it may be that it is just so completely old and tired. And I can note that the magnets that go in between these, as you can see, I'm kind of just retaping things and making a better isolation from the rest of the ground. The magnets are not very magnetic. They barely stick to like a screwdriver. I can tell on other starter motors, it's like every time you turn it, it'll like click into the next magnet, but not for this starter. This has been the only starter motor I haven't been able to get running again, even after all of this tinkering and playing around with trying just about everything with the exception of some new brushes. I went to go order some brushes, and to my dismay, they were wanting like $30 for 2 brushes, which to me is completely crazy, especially considering I can buy a whole new modern starter for about 70 bucks. So I ended up going that route. I might rebuild this one and put new brushes just to see if that was actually the issue, or if any of you guys know what the problem probably is. I will definitely try it out because I could use this as a backup or for some other project, so I am curious. If you know, let me know in the comments. I was really hoping for this first episode to be some attempt at popping or sputtering or some signs of the engine is running, but this is where I am. I have to wait for the new starter to show up in the mail, so this is where I have to call this episode. I think at this point though, I am excited enough and dedicated enough that even if this engine doesn't run or it has issues, that I will end up rebuilding it because I really want to see this project through. I've been wanting to build one of these bikes for over 5 years now, and I've been checking Craigslist and all that, trying to find one, and finally one showed up, so I feel like it's just destiny. I should go through with it no matter what, so that's what I'm going to do. Let me know in the comments if you guys are interested in this project or excited about it as I am, but if you are just looking for more e-bike content, don't worry, I will be doing concurrent builds with this one with more e-bikes, so stay tuned for all that. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to show you guys the evolution and transformation of this bike into something completely different, and I guarantee you it will be unique. In the next episode, I am determined to get this bike to pop or sputter or show some signs of life, so stay tuned and I will see you in the next one.